The Complete Artist's Way, Creativity as a Spiritual Practice by Julia Cameron. Let me tell you about a woman who seemed to have it all figured out. At 30, she was living the dream in Hollywood with an office on the Paramount lot. She'd written for major magazines and had actual feature film scripts with her name on them. By every measure, she was a successful, professional writer. But here's what nobody knew. Writing, for her, was a desperate sprint against time. She'd throw herself at the keyboard in frantic bursts, trying to get the words out before the fog of alcohol rolled in and her creative window slammed shut. Then, 1978 came, and she quit drinking. That's when the real terror began. She'd never believed that alcohol made her creative, but now a new fear gripped her. What if sobriety meant she couldn't write at all? The only way she knew how to create felt like torture. She would, in her own words, fall on the thorns of prose and bleed. But now, sober, that agonizing path was closed to her. She faced an impossible choice: figure out how to create in a completely new way, or give up writing forever. That woman was Julia Cameron, and the path she carved out, not from noble intentions but from pure survival, became the foundation for one of the most quietly powerful books of the past 50 years. The Artist's Way isn't just a book. For over 1 million people, it's become a lifeline. It's been shared artist to artist, like creative CPR. It's been used everywhere, from hospitals to prisons, universities to art studios, in the jungles of Panama, and even at the New York Times. It's helped painters win prestigious exhibitions, and writers earn Emmy and Grammy Awards. Today, I'm going to walk you through the heart of this journey, because this book makes an audacious promise. It says that no matter how old you are or what path your life has taken, whether you're a lawyer or a stay-at-home parent, a painter or a poet, it's not too late, not too selfish, and definitely not too silly to reclaim your creativity. It insists that the creative spark you think belongs only to special, gifted people is actually your natural birthright. By the time we're done, you'll understand the 2 core tools that make this whole thing work. You'll meet the inner enemy that's been keeping you small and learn how to finally shut it down. And you'll discover a spiritual truth so simple yet so transformative that it could reshape not just your art, but your entire life. This is about recovering something you might not even realize you've lost: your true creative self. Have you ever watched someone create something beautiful and thought to yourself, "I could never do that"? Or maybe you've had an even quieter, more painful thought, "I wish I could do that." Where does that feeling come from? That sense that creativity is some rare gift handed out at birth to a lucky few, while the rest of us just watch from the sidelines. Julia Cameron says this is the biggest lie we've ever been told about ourselves. She believes, with decades of evidence to back her up, that creativity is simply the natural order of life. We don't need to invent it. We were born with it, as naturally as we were born with blood in our veins. So if we're all creative beings, what happened? Why do so many of us feel blocked, frustrated, or completely disconnected from that part of ourselves? The book introduces us to a heartbreaking figure you might recognize. She calls this person the shadow artist. Shadow artists are drawn to creativity like moths to flame. They hang around artists, collect art, might even marry artists. They're like someone pressing their face against a bakery window, longing for what's inside but convinced it's not meant for them. They often end up in what Cameron calls shadow careers, professions that orbit art but never quite land. The aspiring novelist becomes a book reviewer. The would-be painter manages a gallery. The dreaming filmmaker becomes a critic. They're circling their true calling but can't quite claim it. They're artists, living in the shadows, too terrified to step into the light where their dreams might be exposed and shattered. So what keeps them there? What keeps us there? Cameron gives this enemy a name: the censor. The censor is that nasty, perfectionist voice living rent-free in your head. It's the internal critic that whispers cruel things disguised as helpful truth every time you dare to try something new. You call that writing? That's embarrassing. It's nowhere near as good as Picasso. If you haven't made it by now, you never will. The censor is cunning. It knows exactly where you're vulnerable, your spelling mistakes, your age, your past failures, and it uses everything to keep you paralyzed. It frames every original idea as wrong, dangerous, or just plain stupid. Who wouldn't be blocked if every time they tried something, someone was right there, mocking them? This is the central problem the Artist's Way sets out to solve. The entire book is a 12-week program designed as a spiritual path to unearth the creativity that's been buried under layers of fear, shame, and doubt. And at the heart of this recovery are two tools. Two beautifully simple, completely non-negotiable practices that, when used together, create powerful momentum. The first tool is called the morning pages. Here's what they are. 3 pages of longhand, stream of consciousness writing done first thing in the morning. This isn't art. It's not even real writing. Cameron calls it brain drain, and that's exactly what it does. You might write something like, "Ugh, another morning. I have nothing to say. Need to do laundry. Did I pick up my dry cleaning? This is so boring." There's literally no wrong way to do morning pages. Nothing is too petty, too mundane, too stupid, or too weird. The whole point is just to move your hand across the page and write whatever tumbles out. And here's the crucial part. No one reads them but you, and you shouldn't even read them yourself for at least the first 8 weeks. Why? What's the point of this seemingly pointless exercise? Morning pages are your secret weapon against the censor. Because there's no wrong way to do them, the censor's opinion becomes irrelevant. By rolling out of bed and straight to the page, you sidestep it completely. You just keep your hand moving. All that anxious, whiny, petty stuff you write down, worries about work, chores, that weird comment your partner made, all of that stands between you and your creativity. The pages help you dump it out of your subconscious so it doesn't cloud your entire day, but they do something deeper. Morning pages are a form of meditation. They teach your logical, analytical brain to step back and let your artist brain come out to play. The artist brain is our inventor, our inner child. It thinks in patterns and images, makes unexpected connections. It's the part of you that might call a boat a wave horse. The pages clear a pathway for that voice to emerge. Over time, this daily practice becomes genuinely spiritual. As you write, you start to move past your fear, your negativity, your bad moods. Beyond the censor's constant chatter, you find a quiet center. You begin to hear what Cameron calls a still, small voice that feels both completely yours and somehow larger than you. She calls this your connection to the Creator within. She promises that anyone who faithfully writes morning pages will eventually connect with a source of wisdom inside themselves. It's a trail leading into your own interior, where you meet both your creativity and something that feels like grace. Now, if morning pages are about telling yourself and the universe about your dreams, frustrations, and hopes, then the second tool is about receiving. It's called the artist date. An artist date is a block of time, roughly 2 hours a week, set aside specifically to nurture your creative consciousness. It's a solo adventure, a play date that you plan and fiercely protect. That means no partners, no friends, no spouse, no kids. Just you and your inner artist, your creative child. If this sounds ridiculous, self-indulgent, or impossible to fit into your schedule, Cameron asks you to recognize that reaction for what it is: resistance. Because you literally cannot afford not to make time for artist dates. Think of it this way: your artist is a child. And like any child, it needs quality time and attention. It wants to be taken out, pampered, and really listened to. This doesn't have to cost money. It could be a solo trip to a thrift store, a walk on the beach, an afternoon at a museum, or just buying some silly crayons and stickers at a dollar store. What matters is the time itself. Cameron calls this filling the well. Your creativity is like a stocked pond. Every time you create, you're fishing from it. If you keep pulling fish out without restocking, the pond runs dry. Your work becomes thin, and you wonder what happened. The artist state is how you consciously replenish your creative resources. It's actively seeking out images, sounds, experiences, and sensations that feed your artist brain. Art, she reminds us, is born from attention. Its midwife is detail. By taking yourself on these small adventures, you're forced back into your senses. You start noticing things again. And that focused attention is the raw material of art. Together, these two tools, morning pages and the artist state, form the foundation of the entire 12-week recovery. They're the engine driving everything else. And the process itself is about dismantling the walls we've built around our creative selves. One of the first walls you'll hit is your core negative beliefs. These are the deep, often unconscious ideas you carry about what it means to be an artist. If I succeed as an artist, everyone will resent me. I'll hurt my family. I'll never have financial security. It's too late for me. These beliefs, Cameron explains, come from our parents, our culture, and our anxious friends. They aren't facts. They're just beliefs. And the book gives you a surprisingly effective weapon against them: affirmations. Now, this might feel awkward at first. We're perfectly comfortable beating ourselves up with negative self-talk. But saying nice things about ourselves feels cringy. Cameron suggests a simple exercise. Pick an affirmation like, "I, your name, am a brilliant and prolific writer," and write it 10 times. As you do, something fascinating happens. Your censor starts objecting. It blurts out arguments. Brilliant? Since when? You can't even spell. Who are you kidding? These objections, these blurts, are the key to your freedom. They're your personal core negative beliefs rising to the surface. Once you see them clearly, you can confront them. You can turn each negative blurt into a positive affirmation and start rewiring the stories you tell yourself. As you clear away internal blocks, you also have to deal with external saboteurs. The book warns about poisonous playmates and crazy makers. Poisonous playmates are often your old, blocked friends. Your recovery threatens them. Your getting unblocked raises the uncomfortable possibility that they could get unblocked too, and they'd rather stay comfortably cynical. So they subtly sabotage you, maybe telling you you've become selfish or different, words designed to guilt you back into your familiar box. Cameron's advice is clear. Don't expect your blocked friends to celebrate your recovery, just like you wouldn't expect your drinking buddies to celebrate your sobriety. Crazy makers are even more destructive. These are chaotic, dramatic personalities who create storms wherever they go. They break promises, destroy schedules, dismiss your reality, and make everything about themselves. As blocked creatives, we're often drawn to them because their drama provides the perfect distraction from the terrifying work of our own creative life. If you're involved with a crazy maker, the book forces you to face a hard truth. You're using them as a block, just as much as they're using you. Facing these inner and outer challenges requires a new source of strength, and this is where the journey becomes distinctly spiritual. Cameron asks you to experiment with the idea of a supportive creator, what she often calls the great creator, or good orderly direction. She knows this can be loaded territory, tangled up with uncomfortable religious baggage. She simply asks you to be open-minded. You don't have to believe it. Just be willing to experiment with the idea that there's a benevolent creative force rooting for you. When you open yourself to this possibility, something powerful happens. Synchronicity. Synchronicity, a concept from psychologist Carl Jung, refers to those meaningful coincidences that seem to happen exactly when you need them. The book overflows with stories of this. A woman admits her dream of acting, and the next night she happens to sit next to an acting teacher at dinner. A writer makes one phone call to a film school and gets offered the last available spot. Cameron's mantra for this is beautifully simple: leap, and the net will appear. When we commit to our dreams, when we take that first small, concrete step, the universe moves to support us. Doors open where there were only walls. The challenge for most of us is our reluctance to believe it. We're more afraid that there might be a responsive universe than that there might not be. Because if there is a force helping us, then we're responsible. We actually have to act on those dreams we once called impossible. Of course, once we start moving, we encounter new obstacles. One of the most insidious is perfectionism. Perfectionism, Cameron insists, has nothing to do with high standards. It's a refusal to let yourself move forward. It's an obsessive loop that keeps you stuck in details, losing sight of the whole picture. The perfectionist rewrites the first sentence of a novel 100 times and never gets to page 2. She redraws a chin line until the paper tears. She works with one eye constantly on her imagined audience, grading results, instead of enjoying the process. Perfectionism is pride dressed up as humility. It's the ego demanding to be brilliant immediately. The antidote is giving yourself permission to be a beginner, to be willing to create badly. Because when you're willing to do it badly, you give yourself permission to do it at all, and maybe, eventually, to do it beautifully. Jazz legend Miles Davis put it perfectly: do not fear mistakes, there are none. Hand in hand with perfectionism comes jealousy, that burning, gut-churning emotion when you see someone else succeeding at exactly what you long to do. Cameron calls jealousy a map. It's not a character flaw. It's a beacon pointing directly at your buried desires. It's a mask for fear, fear that you can't get what you want. When jealousy strikes, instead of letting it poison you, use it. Look at who you're jealous of and why. Then identify one small, concrete action you can take to move toward that very thing. That's how you transform jealousy from a prison into a path. As you progress, you'll inevitably hit a moment of real success, and that's often the most dangerous moment of all. This is when the creative U-turn happens. Right on the edge of success, or just after a first win, recovering artists often panic and self-sabotage. The screenwriter gets interest from an agent who wants a few changes, and he never makes them. The painter gets invited to her first group show and picks a fight with the gallery owner. Why? Because we're actually more comfortable being victims of creative block than risking the responsibility of consistent productivity and success. Success is terrifying. When this happens, the key is compassion. U-turns are normal. Every career has them. Think of your talent as a young, nervous horse. It's going to spook at new obstacles. Your job isn't to punish it, but to gently coax it back on course. Ask for help. Find a friend, a mentor, someone who's navigated this jump before, and ask how they did it. Finally, the journey leads to a new state of being, autonomy and acceptance. It's about being able to say, without apology or explanation, I am an artist. Accepting this means accepting that your life might look different from other people's. You might need a different balance of stability and flow. Your income might be erratic. Your house might be messy. But your studio is organized. Your credibility comes from doing the work, not from marketplace validation or other people's opinions. Ultimately, this is a path of faith. It's about trusting mystery. Creativity, Cameron says, begins in darkness. Ideas don't assemble like building blocks. They form in drips and drops, in the murky cave of consciousness. We must learn to let them gestate, to play and doodle and wonder, without constantly checking to see if they're growing. The creative process is about surrender, not control. It's about replacing discipline with enthusiasm. Realizing that our best work comes not from grim duty, but from treating our creative self like a child who needs coaxing out to play. Serious art is born from serious play. After 12 weeks, you arrive not at an ending but at a new beginning. The path doesn't stop, it spirals. You'll circle back to the same issues: fear, doubt, resistance, but each time at a slightly higher level with a better view. You learn that you're like a shark. If you stop moving, you sink. A sustained creative life requires the humility to be a beginner, again and again. This is the promise of the artist's way. It's not a quick fix. It's a lifelong practice. It's a way of moving through the world that allows you to reclaim the creativity that's been yours all along, waiting patiently for you to come home. As we step back and look at the journey Julia Cameron maps out, what strikes me most is how beautifully simple and yet profoundly radical her message is. In a world obsessed with measuring our worth through productivity, efficiency, and external achievements, The Artist's Way offers a quiet rebellion. It suggests that our primary duty isn't to be productive, but to be authentic. It redefines creativity not as a product we sell, but as a spiritual practice we live. The book's greatest strength is its compassion. It gives us permission to be messy, to be beginners, to fail, to be afraid, and to create anyway. It takes the intimidating concept of art down from its pedestal and places it back where it belongs, in the playful, curious, sometimes clumsy hands of every human soul. Cameron acts as a wise, gentle guide, telling us that our inner critic, the censor, isn't speaking truth. It's just a scared part of us trying to keep us safe in a small, familiar world. The tools she offers, morning pages and artist dates, aren't just exercises. They're acts of profound self-love. They're a way of saying to that forgotten creative child within, I see you, I hear you, and I will make time for you. What I find most enduring about this book is its insistence on process over product. We're so conditioned to ask, what will I get out of this? Will it be good? Will it sell? Cameron gently redirects our focus. The point isn't the finished painting. It's the joy of mixing colors. The point isn't the published novel. It's the daily act of showing up at the page. This shift in perspective is liberating. It frees us from the tyranny of perfectionism and lets us find meaning in the simple act of doing. So how can you begin walking this path today? First, try morning pages for just a few days. Don't worry about doing them right. Just get 3 pages of anything down on paper. See how it feels to clear your mind before the day begins. Second, schedule an artist date. Just one. Carve out 2 hours this week that belong only to you. Go to a museum, a hardware store, a park. Buy yourself a flower. Don't try to make it productive. The only goal is to delight your senses and fill your creative well. Third, pay attention to jealousy. Next time you feel that sting of envy, don't push it away in shame. Look at it. See it as a map. Ask yourself, what is this feeling telling me about what I truly want? Then think of one tiny, non-threatening step you could take in that direction. The journey in The Artist's Way isn't about becoming a famous artist. It's about becoming a more alive human being. It's about trading a life of quiet desperation for one of joyful, sometimes messy creation. It's about recognizing that creative force flows through all of us, and our greatest act is simply getting out of our own way and letting it through. That was a summary of The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. We've explored the core ideas today, but I'll be honest, a summary can only ever be a map. The real treasure is in the journey itself. The true magic happens in the quiet, daily practice, when a forgotten memory surfaces in your morning pages, or sudden insight strikes on an artist date. This summary is your invitation to see if this journey is for you. If anything we've talked about sparked recognition or a flicker of hope, I encourage you to pick up a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely change how you see yourself, your world, and your place in it. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this valuable, please click that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps me know these journeys matter and ensures you won't miss our next exploration of another life-changing book. Let's keep exploring and growing together.